Thanks, Ceann Corla. Ministers, I have to say what this budget says to me is that you really haven't got a clue. You haven't got a clue what it's like to live in the real world inhabited by so many families, by people on social welfare, by people who get up in the morning to go out and do their job earning less money than they did a number of years ago, those with dependent children, those in need of health care or a roof over their head. And every year we get a big fanfare about the budget and a big media hype what's going to be in it. But I have to say that I probably speak for everybody, or at least those who managed to stay awake during the Minister's speeches, that it was somewhat of an underwhelming experience, because Deputy Boyd Barrett called it crumbs, but in actual fact it was probably an insult. Ye haven't even gone a fraction of the way to undo the savage cutbacks of your government, not to mind the crowd that went before you. And what it tells me is that ye really have no idea of the savage economies that people have had to impose on themselves just to stay afloat. The amount of people, many of them behind nice doors, in nice housing estates, in nice suburbs, who haven't been out for a meal, who can't replace a pair of shoes, who are traumatised by their children coming home about a school trip, who are worried about their car breaking down. And onto the shoulders of these people, ye now want to foist water charges. And even with your paltry little €100 give back, it still means that those families are going to be hundreds of euros worse off. You must really think people are stupid if you think they're going to fall for that. And we had to listen to the ministers puffing out their chests about how great they were when dealing with jobs and prioritising people off the dole. But the question is really, what type of jobs? Is it the person in my constituency who had to take up a gateway scheme for €20 a week and ended up paying €15 PRSI? Is it the young woman who was being paid $2.34 by a multinational company located in Swords for doing a full-paid job? Or the man who sits at home waiting for the phone call on a 0-hour contract? Would you absolutely wise up? We live in one of the most unequal societies in the world. Second highest number of low-paid jobs, second only to America. A system which sees those at the bottom paying the highest taxes through the massive burden of indirect taxation in this state. The people in the middle being squeezed, and of course those at the top getting away with it. And after today's budget, they're going to get away with it again. I think it was a little bit sickening to hear one of the biggest cheers from the government backbenchers that the corporations will be left intact with their wealth when they don't even pay a fraction of the paltry amount we levy on them. And people like Michael Taft have explained it accurately. We're not even talking about the elephant in the room, what he calls the taxes on living standards, the massive burden on people because of the state's failure to provide decent public services. The creche fees, the transport costs, the medicine costs, all of the other things. What we need is not crumbs. We need to stand on its head the economic ideology of neoliberal capitalism and have a proper state-led investment programme to really put people back to work. But of course, you're not going to do that. You know, the dogs on the streets know that you have been fatally wounded, really, with your antics of cronyism over the last while and now the water charges. And I think you honestly think that this budget can somehow act as a sort of a bandage to patch up your wounds. Well, I have to tell you, you've definitely got that one wrong, because all you've done with these minuscule concessions on water charges is to show up that you have been wounded. And you know what? The people smell blood and they're coming after you. Because I've been on the streets of this city for decades over various protest issues, and I have never been on a march like last Saturday's march. It is the equivalent of 1 million people on the streets of London. And you know what? They're not going back. The people liked it. They enjoyed it. It gave them confidence. It gave them hope, something that has been sadly lacking. And I want to just read an email from a young woman in my constituency who was on that march. A young woman with husband, small children, pregnant, who felt sick and exhausted. She walked so much, but she was absolutely elated. And she said, "I'm not scared this time round. I can't afford to be. I've no more to give. I'd love, Enda, to live off mine and my husband's wages and manage on our outgoings, and we don't even have any loans. I'm just fed up of managing. Both of us work, so we should be able to see something good at the end of the day. Another constituent just texted me when the Minister's finished. Budget 2015, too little, too late. I'll be out on November the 1st, and I think there'll be twice as many as were out last Saturday.